So Alita and Dina, y'all have to accept the invite to speak. Oh, there you are, Dina. Okay, I'm gonna invite you to video.
Did you say, Laura, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Can you hear me?
Can you see me?
No, not yet. Let me send you the invite again. Invite to video. So you should get a pop-up to say, I want to be on video. There you are!
How do I get it?
Yeah, I can't see myself yet, but okay.
But I can't see. Lee?
Can you hear me, Laurel?
Said tonight. Hang on.
I think I did what I was supposed to do. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Can you guys hear me?
For network connectivity,
Yep.
but can you hear?
I can hear you.
I can hear you, but your video keeps freezing.
Olivia, can you hear me?
Yep.
Clear?
Yep.
How did you get on video?
Can you see me?
No. I saw you for a second and you went away.
Yeah.
Yeah, Laurel sent me an invite to share my video.
Oh yeah, I just got something.
Oh, here we go.
Yeah.
Hi.
Okay, Alita, there are you.
I love it when Grandma figures out how to do something.
Dina, did you get the invite?
Hi. Hello.
It's the Queens. I did not realize how much texting I did last night. And yes, I watched the whole thing.
Did you?
I watched all 4 hours.
I haven't seen anything.
Watched the whole 4 hours, didn't even take a bio break.
Wow. Laurel, it's hard to hear you.
Okay.
Can you hear her, Lita?
Mm-mm.
Okay. I can hear you just fine.
Mm-hmm. I can see you just fine.
She might be in a bad spot.
She's like stuck.
Mm-hmm. She's frozen and stuck. Can't hear you. Okay, she said she's going to restart the show so we can hear her.
She's upset that the technology though.
Yeah, something's going on with her Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right back.
Oh, that's clearer. What'd you do?
Yeah, that was clear.
As soon as she was logging off, it came unclear. Where are you? Are you in Germany?
Yes, ma'am.
How's it going over there?
It's going fine.
Good.
It was another sunny day. You love how your disposition changes when the sun comes out, right?
Sun will
It's a
come
whole
out.
new world.
And the sun will come out tomorrow.
Yes. Absolutely.
What's the there's a it's like a candy and sweet shop. Like they have pastries in Cologne. and it's like a golden color, and it's not too far from the Marriott. And it's like,
You
look,
walk in and it's a bunch of cakes.
yes, it's on the
It's,
right hand
it's
side. It's walking towards the dome.
ironically, it's called Cafe Richards.
That's it.
That's
I
my go-to. That's my go-to place when I have to buy like small gifts for folks in the office.
yes.
It's the best. You can. It's like going on a jewelry shop. It's just, but it's cakes and candy.
That place, first of all, none of them spoke English, but that place, they always got me together though. We figured it out with some sugar. I used to get, it was like an apple fritter for myself. And she knew to put extra like powdered sugar on the end for me. I went, I want the shake. She said, just, she shake it on. I'm like, keep going, keep going. And that place I dream of sometimes. That, and what's the place right? And, oh, it's like the place people go to at the plant for lunch because it's named for the road. Is it Cafe 66?
What are they? What is
They
the
serve
type?
everything. It's a little, it's not in Dusseldorf or Cologne. It's in Leverkusen, and it's on our site. But there's a cafe where people go to for lunch. It's not like a workout. It's a little mom and pop shop, and it's named for the road. I want to say it's like Cafe 66 or something like that.
Okay, you might have found something. I'm not aware.
It's
Hey,
really
Can y'all hear me
cool.
now?
Oh yes, we can hear you clear.
Okay. I switched back to my laptop. So hang on, I'm gonna have to plug in. And then we'll get going.
Well, Alita, this little place, again, no English, but I had probably the best salmon I've ever had in Germany. and and they had like really good pudding. And I was going there like every day. It's not too far from K-12. It's like a little cafe, and I feel like there's numbers in the name of it because it's named for the road that it's on.
I'll have to look. I
It's
honestly I
good
don't
for lunch.
know.
You want like an actual meal, but not sitting in the casino place.
Awesome. Okay. So we moved the show to 5 so that Alita didn't have to be up all night. So, which I'm really excited about. So we will have people that'll jump in and out, as you'll see. And so who you've got on right now is Jenny, and Jenny is like my right hand. She has become such a great friend of mine. She does all of my like video clips and all that kind of stuff. So I've got her on as a producer.
Hi,
And
Jenny.
I think I still have you. When I left, Jenny, it didn't turn you to not be a producer, right? You're still a producer. Yeah.
Correct.
Okay.
I'm
Cool.
still in there.
Okay, perfect. And so Jenny helps me kind of watch and then put stuff in the little fortune cookie. Yes. Thank you. I'm like,
I'm just happy you can see me and hear me. So
yes,
All right.
I can see you and hear you. And we are being simulcast to YouTube
ooh.
live.
No more
Live.
labor talk.
Yes.
Let me go check.
So we are live on YouTube and we are live on Fireside. And so we'll see. Yeah. And so, Woody, good evening, Woody. Woody always joins the show. So it's really cool. So we will get started on Fireside. Welcome to those of you who are new to Fireside. I am Laurel Rutledge. I am your host of this show, the Rutledge Perspective Live Conversations on Fireside. And tonight, hey, Tisa. And tonight we are doing week 4 of Women's History Month. And you are going to meet my corporate posse tonight. And actually, you're meeting 2 of them because one of them is actually on a plane on her way to Saudi Arabia for work. So that is Lanier. So if you were here last week, you got a chance to meet and hear her last week. But if not, definitely go out to my website, laurelrutledge.com/podcast, and you will see the actual pre-recorded of them, and you can get all of their bios. But for those of you who are on tonight, I am going to give you just really quick snippets of each of these amazing women, and then we are going to dive into the conversation because they are fantastic. And so here's the thing. It is live conversations, so we can talk and we can chat because that's what we do. But I would love to hear from y'all, and I would love to hear your comments, your questions, your conversation, all of that kind of stuff. And so, and Dina and Elita, just so you know, one of the people that may be joining, I don't see her yet, is Marissa Lee.
Oh,
So she
nice.
might be joining tonight. So,
Cool.
all right, I am going to start with Dina Clark. And Dina Clark, with her lovely red necklace on, we always give Dana a hard time because she has these amazing necklaces that are like collars. She is currently the Senior VP of Diversity and Inclusion at Skanska. She just started there in May of 2021. And in that, she is a member of the senior leadership team. And this is the first time they have had an SVP of Diversity and Inclusion. And she is developing, implementing, and aligning their inclusion strategy for the business. She also served with me, which is where I met her, as the first head of diversity and inclusion at the North American operations of Covestro, which was based in Pittsburgh. And there she spearheaded the development and implementation of our diversity, equity, and inclusion strategy across the US, quite frankly, across the globe, although she would never say that, so I'm saying it, in the US and Mexico. She also, this is the crazy thing about Dina. Dina also ran the YWCA's Center for Race and Gender Equity there in Pittsburgh. She was the first executive director of the Western Pennsylvania Diversity Initiative. She served as the regional education project director for the Anti-Defamation League. I mean, the girl is just everywhere. She also, and this is really cool, she was a professional tester for housing discrimination for the Fair Housing Partnership of Pittsburgh, and is a diversity and anti-bias trainer for the Anti-Defamation League. She has a BS, did I say that right? Yeah, a bachelor's degree in psychology and child and family studies from Syracuse, and a master's degree from Duquesne, and she's currently working on her doctorate. So Dina, woohoo! Thank you, so excited. And then next we have Dr. Elita Richards. Dr. Elita Richards, that we are so excited that she's a doctor. She is the global head of specialty films for Covestro, and she is the global business, where the global business is headquartered in Dormagen. So the reason the show is a little bit earlier is because we didn't want Elita to have to be on at like 3 o'clock in the morning. So she is actually on from Germany. So, which is really cool. That tells you how amazing she is and how blessed I am to have her. She's got 30 years of experience in marketing, sales, product management, human resources, and general management. And she's held various leadership positions throughout the company, including time spent in the polyurethanes, plastics, and inorganic basic chemicals business. She joined the board of directors of Crime Science Technology in Lille, France. In addition, and in recognition for her efforts, Elita has been selected as a Woman of Excellence Award recipient by the New Pittsburgh Courier. She's also received the Pittsburgh Most Powerful and Influential Women Award by the National Diversity Council and a Minority Achievers Award from the Talk Minority Advocacy Group. She has got her bachelor's and MBA in Marketing and International Business from the University of Pittsburgh. And as we said, she has her doctor's in Business Administration from Georgia State University. Alita, thank you. So tonight, these women, you know, we've gone through this whole month, and you guys met my Friends for Life in the very beginning, you know, talking about shared beginnings. And then you got a chance to meet my Fierce Five, that whole place around really those common connections. Then you got to meet my Sister Circle last week. We're really talking about that safe space to be. How do you create those spaces where you can just show up? And then I'm rounding out the panel interviews with this corporate posse of mine. And I call them that on purpose because there's so many people, especially during this great resignation that we're hearing about, who are rethinking their career. What does it look like? And I talk a lot about a career flow instead of a career path. And how are we making it? And how are we showing up? And we've all seen, hopefully we've all seen the confirmation hearings that are going on now too, and how you show up and how you respond for those quite frankly fit for duty interviews. And so I wanted you to meet these incredible women because I honestly would not have made it through that last assignment without these women. And I think it's important for you to understand and figure out how to find your corporate posse because it is important for your health, your mental health, as well as your physical health in those corporate settings. So I'm going to start with you, Dina, just because you're the first one to my right on the screen. So when you think about a corporate posse, right? What does that really mean to you in terms of being able to kind of align, connect, and survive right? Corporate, because it's not a horrible place, but there is some survival tactics in corporate America.
Yep. Hi. Thanks for having me on here. I'm excited. Hello, everybody who's listening and watching. I think for me, it's your go-to group. It's your trusted, let me correct that. It's your trusted go-to group. Everyone needs sort of your survival pack. That's cool. And I feel like it takes a minute because everybody's typically kind and cordial at the beginning. But when you truly have to navigate some situations, or you want to do a gut check on whether or not you heard something crazy through your crazy lens or not, that's
Yes.
what you want to go to. So I just see it as basically a trusted group that's been vetted by my own standards, because not everybody who's friendly is your friend. So, that's kind of the gauge, not only in corporate, but also outside. So that's what I think.
I agree. And Alita, for you, because Dina and I worked, and she says all the time, look, she was in nonprofit for a long time, so this was her first for profit thing. But Alita she has run the gauntlet. So guys, I just need you to know this and recognize this. A company, it was 17,000 when I left. It's probably a little bit smaller now, just because that's what happens in business. But a company of 17,000, and Alita and I were the two senior executive Black women in a global company of 17,000. Two people. She is now the only one. The only one.
Because you left me.
But I know. And then Lanier left and Dina left, right? But here's the thing. Alita has, not only is she just amazing, just like we're seeing with Ketanji Brown Jackson, amazing and really good at what she does, but she has mastered that art of navigation. And so, Alita, when you think about how you have really taken everything that you've learned along the way, the good and the bad and the ugly, what for you is that kind of navigation that is also supported by having kind of this group around you?
Absolutely. I think it kind of manifests itself, and I have to admit, and these ladies know, because I was texting them all night last night. It kind of manifests itself the way Judge Jackson just handled herself with grace and poise, and there was never a question that she could accomplish what she was set to do. And so I think from a corporate perspective, it's some advice that I gave to my daughter once. And it's something my grandmother used to say, like, the devil is a liar, right? That you'll hear a lot of things that will get you mad and upset. Not everybody, to Dina's point, will be actually right behind you. But you have to kind of get over that. You have to stay focused. You have to be true to yourself. And this is something that Dina helped me to do, to learn how to be even more authentic. And then you need to find those group of people where you can be authentic. You can vent, and we've all done this. We've just had venting sessions with each one of us share. We get great advice. We get good critical advice when we need it. But I think even more importantly, in the world that we sit in now, as women, and for the three of us as African American women, you need someone who lifts the spirits.
Yep.
And I know each one of you, we've shared texts. The day's going crazy. I mean, even our fourth musketeer said, "I'm having a wonderful day today," right?
Yes.
And it's knowing that you have that positive uplift from folks that you respect and you trust, to Dina's point. I think that's for me. And the reason why it's not just a posse, it's a corporate posse, is all of us understand and been through the corporate environment. And so the stories we share, although people would like to say every company is different, really corporate America, I'll say corporate America as I'm sitting here in Dusseldorf, right?
Yep.
Corporations have the same kind of culture and feel. It's the politics wherever you go. It might be different. It might adjust a little bit. And being able to find that group of people where you can be yourself, authentic, real, and hear authentic, real, and trusting feedback is phenomenal.
Yes. I agree. And as you're talking, I'm thinking of a couple of things, that came up is for both of you, that real trust, because because you can't trust everybody, and your corporate posse. And I'll even go so far to say I'm calling this corporate posse because that was my journey. But whether that is nonprofit and your organizational posse, those people who have at some level the same lived professional experience as you, finding those people you can trust and that place where you can be vulnerable. But here's the other piece of it, right? And Dina, I'll switch it back to you, because one of the things you said a lot was you're like, man, I have these rose colored glasses, or something would happen. You're like, I think my rose is getting a little dusty, right? I don't have as much of the rose colored glasses on. And for those of you who are earlier career or are even thinking, this is just great, there are no issues, and then all of a sudden something slams you, because it will. What for you, Dina, when you would be talking to someone about that career progression, about changing something, about being really gung ho and excited, how do you navigate the disappointment and the disappointment in your expectations? I guess is the better piece of that.
Ooh, how long is this show? All right,
Right?
let me start by saying at first it was rose-colored glasses,
Yeah.
and then my rose-colored glasses got snatched, and
Yeah.
then my blue sky was getting more and more gray, so I started putting my blue shoes on because I needed to be uplifted. I
Yes.
felt like for me, I needed to create my own inspiration, because there were people and issues and situationships stacked to knock you off your game.
Yes.
Not just how you navigate your own world, but just because you existed in that space. And I
Mhm.
didn't want to believe it until it smacked me in the face multiple times. And I think that it shouldn't discourage.
Right.
You should just square your shoulders and be proud of the strength. I like quotes a lot, and one of them is "Be careful who you vent to," because that goes back to your corporate posse group.
Yes.
But also, you can stand in the wind when you have deep roots. Another quote I like. I might have messed the quote up a little bit,
Yes.
but that
Yes.
means when something's hitting you, that resistance, stand strong, square your shoulders, and chin up,
Mhm.
and find the pieces of inspiration to keep going. I literally, everywhere I've been, so I've only been in corporate for 7 years, just shy of
Mhm.
7 years, this
Yeah.
job and last job. But as Laurel mentioned, all before was nonprofit. The issues are the same. The resources are different, but the issues are the exact same.
Mhm.
And what's sad is every place I've had, I guess it's good too, I've had a file that's called nice notes.
Yeah.
And those were things when something went well, when people sent me a nice note, literally, or a picture or something uplifting, I'd stick it in that file. And when
Mhm.
I would have a day or couple, I would go in that file and say, you know what? This is my energy to keep going. And the
Yes.
other thing I'll say quickly is it's not just that. You have to make sure you take care of yourself. And I mean from a physical standpoint. I was
Mhm.
eating cake and not sleeping and doing all this stuff. And I really had to try and get myself back, because in order to stand, they know, in order
Yes.
to
Love
stand
some
strong,
cake.
yeah, you've got to be at your physical best too. So your mental
Yes.
best, your physical best, and be prepared that any resistance is just building muscle. So that's
Yes.
that's what I would say. That's the navigation. And
Mhm.
be confident and stand true that you were there for a reason. So you shouldn't doubt your experience, your expertise. And so chin up. That's what I would say.
I love that. And y'all, Dina is one of those people that is constantly positive. Even when she's not, she truly finds like that silver lining. And so it's like why we connect as well, because that's why I call it the Rutledge perspective, right? Finding those different perspectives when yours is all jacked up that day, finding somebody who can shift that perspective for you. And even when they agree with you, I think Lanier said that last week, even when somebody agrees with you, your true village, your true posse will say, you know what, you're right. And have you thought about this, right? Just give you another little nugget. Alita, you talked about kind of this political savvy. And I remember years ago, I have a dear friend of mine. She's phenomenal. She just retired. She's an amazing general counsel. She's on all kinds of boards now. And I remember having a conversation with her one time, and she said, Laurel, it's the politics. I just cannot play politics. And I said, nope, stop. Words matter. You are a Black woman in corporate America. You absolutely can play politics. The question is, do you want to? right? We grow up having to figure out how to play politics. And so when you think about the kind of political savvy you have had to have, Elita, to navigate, I mean, 30 years at this organization. And it's not that the organization is a horrible organization by any means. There have just been some interesting people in the organization.
Yeah.
How have you, one, how did you develop kind of that political savvy, that sixth sense? And then two, how do you utilize that and then help other people figure that out?
That's a great question. I would say first, the one thing you have to remember is like a corporation is a living organism. It's like your family.
Mm-hmm.
I love my family. Some members, whoo, right? Some
Right?
members, oh, they're phenomenal. It's the same thing in a corporation. You have folks, to Dina's point, that will uplift, share notes, help you out, support you. And then there are others that it's just not connecting, right?
Yeah.
I think, and I was reading some research around the politics in an organization. And I think you have to remember that when we talk about politics of an organization, it's the other things that get people to do what their behaviors, right? It's the other
Mm-hmm.
things that forms a behavior. So if I'm going into a customer and I want to have a conversation about raising price,
Mm-hmm.
which seems very logical. It seems pragmatic. It seems that we can talk about this. And for some reason, in an organization, you have salespeople that just refuse to do it
Yeah.
or do it some weird way. What I found is you can't just simply say it's kind of insubordination
Yeah.
or people just or are not trained, let's say, to do it. It could very well be something symptomatic in the organization that is causing the behavior. And
Yes.
normally it's politics. And that's how I define politics.
Mm-hmm.
And so then for me, I guess I've learned over I hate to say it because then you can start calculating my age, over the 30
Right.
years that I've kind of worked for the company, is that I never assume that everyone's going to approach things logically. And trust me, I'm not saying that I always approach things logically, right? But if you go into a conversation and I'm trying to convince Dina or you to do
Yeah.
something, and I assume that true logic and fact will influence you to make a decision, I think that's the biggest mistake.
Yes.
Because there are other factors and other reasons in your history and your experience, and your boss told you, for 10 years you shouldn't do this, although it
Mm-hmm.
makes sense. And for me, it's finding when kind of you hit the wall and there just isn't any logical reason why something can't happen. That's when kind of the Sherlock Holmes comes out and you figure out, okay, something else must be going on. And then you
Yes.
start working on that, right? Because
Yes.
regardless of the logic that you provide, the information that makes sense, the business you can secure, if I can't figure out what your real hesitation is to do something, that could be just a cultural aspect of an organization, I'm not going to get anything done,
Right.
period. Right.
Yep.
So that has been really interesting because you assume that a business is there to make money. So all decisions should be leveraged and focused on making money. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And that this function is designed to do X and this function is designed to do Y. So of course they'll
Mm-hmm.
always want to do that. And then you kind of have a conversation with somebody and it's like, wow, I have no idea. What do you mean you don't want to do this? It's logical. You
Yes.
got to figure out the politics behind it.
Mm-hmm. I love that. I love that because it's that being curious, right? Pausing. Okay, this didn't go the way I thought it was going to go. Pause, ask the question why, and then make a decision as to how you're going to address that.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Because you don't know. You don't know all the time what people's perspective is. See how I did that, y'all? You don't know what people's perspective is, but you also don't know what someone else may have been experienced that they're using as the basis for their decisions or their where they're coming down on their side of an issue. Right? You just don't know. You just don't know what's forcing some of that. So, thinking about how we have worked through so much stuff right? And so much of a career thing. As you guys heard me read like really short snippets of these ladies' bios, the diversity of experience that they have in getting there. Because even if you look at Dina's bio, where she's one of those people that has been in her zone of genius like since day one. I mean, truly in that zone of genius. And yet she has executed that work in multiple areas, right? So the fundamentals of what she's done has been in her zone of genius, but she's done it in multiple places. Alita has broadened that experience where we have a tendency to say, oh, I don't want to do that, or maybe I shouldn't do that. And her experience has been so broad that now when she's in the senior VP role, just like Dina's in the senior VP role, they have so much behind them that gives them experience and exposure and an ability to connect dots because they have allowed themselves to do other things. You know, Dina, if you look back kind of at that career progression, and say there's people here who are really thinking, or people who are going to listen to the replay or what have you, who are thinking, you know what, I really love what I do. I don't want to do anything else. I want to be an expert in this. I don't want to do anything else. What is a piece of advice that you would give to somebody who still wants to stay in their genius, but is really kind of being, yeah, nah, I don't care what the opportunity is. I'm not doing anything else.
So a couple of things. First of all, if someone's that clear about what they want to do, they absolutely should move forward. But if we haven't learned anything after COVID and everything else, is you need to master the pivot, even if it's within the same lane. Yes. So I think someone gave me advice one time, it was a while ago. They said, lots of times our full-time jobs end up being what used to be our part-time interest. Mm-hmm. And so I always believe that you should nurture what you know to be your truth and your passion. Mm-hmm. Because I'm not saying it won't be difficult or not guaranteeing it'll be easy, but at least you are moving towards where you know you should be. So the more you nurture that, the more you drive, the more exciting you get. And believe it or not, all of us, and we don't have time for that show either, all of us are in lanes we should be, but we have all pivoted. I know you didn't think you were going to be in Germany, and I know you didn't think you'd be doing a podcast. Just as two examples. So, and I definitely wouldn't have been working for a construction company because, like, who knew? So for me, but we're standing in our happiness and our truth. Mm-hmm. So you might be very clear about one lane and maybe not so clear about another. Still keep your mind open and master the pivot even within that lane, because I think sometimes you have to get out of your own way to discover where your next blessing is. And I'm glad that the two of them and Lanier encouraged me to see beyond where I had a barrier, because if not, I wouldn't even be sitting in this role or being able to do this work that I so deeply love. Yeah. So get out of your own way, and yes, be clear and hang on to that, but allow your passion to come through, but allow yourself to be pivoted as well.
Yes, I love that, because sometimes we're clear. It's that asking your question why, right? It's the 5 whys. So I don't want to do anything else, but why is that? Is it because you're afraid, or because you are really clear that you are operating where you want to be, right? It's that real understanding of what it is. As Dina said, hold on to your passion and be clear about that, but really be clear about why you're clear, right? Are you doing it because you don't want to be bothered, which is okay, right? No judgment here. Or are you doing it? Are you staying where you are because it's uncomfortable to move? It's uncomfortable to move. Mm-hmm. You know, and Alita, for you, I'm sorry, go ahead, Dina.
I just thought of something, and this is what you don't want to do, but it's aligned with what you just asked me. Yeah. I talked to someone one time, and they were talking about their profession. It was more like a job to them. Mm-hmm. And they said, I'm just waiting to get, because they had one of those earlier retirements where you're still in your 40s. And they said, I'm just waiting to retire so that I can actually figure out what I want to do. And I kept thinking to myself, how sad that you're sort of holding on. I know there are different reasons for different things, but they were waiting to sort of be opened up for that passion. And so my question back to that person was, what can you do right now so that you're not just waiting, but getting ready? So I wanted to just say the pivot isn't just about a wait. It's also about being prepared a lot.
Yes. Luck is when preparation meets opportunity.
Ooh, excuse me.
Yes, I think Oprah said that. You know, and Alita, when I look at yours too, because we met when you were in HR, you were leading HR operations, right? HR services at the time. And because, you know, as HR professionals, I have to take the opportunity to shout out to all the HR people. Whoop, whoop. hang in there. It'll get better eventually. Um, but often people, although we are seeing a little bit of a shift now where people and executives are understanding the power of having an HR experience. But that
Mhm.
wasn't necessarily common as you were taking this role, because that's truly just been in the last maybe couple of years. When you look at all of the things that you've done and where you just said yes, talk a little bit about why you just said yes, even if it was something you needed to do, right? But in
Yep.
particular, why would you say yes to an HR role?
Yeah. Sure. So, and I was thinking when Dina was talking, for me, the trigger for me is, have I learned everything I can from the current role that I am?
Mm.
I used to have a mentor that says, when you go into work every day, you can do your job blindfolded with both hands tied behind your back. And when
Mm-hmm.
you get to that point, you do need to switch. You do need to find something. It could be still be in the same lane, but you
Mm-hmm.
need to expand a little bit. So
Yeah.
if you look at, I was asked if I wanted a job in corporate quality. Never did that before. Sure.
Yeah.
I was asked then if I was interested in move to strategic planning, learn some stuff about Herfindahl indexes and all the rest. Learn that it's something I really do not want to do for a career.
Right?
Um, but learn some more stuff, right? Got the offer to move into HR to kind of bring a business perspective to our shared service center. And I
Yes.
thought, I'm sure I'll learn a whole bunch of stuff that'll help me in the future.
Yes.
When I was asked if I would be interested to go to China for 6 months,
Mm-hmm.
I'm so far in my career. Why in the world would the company send me to China for 6 months? But I was
Yes.
like, of course, after asking the bosses that you have in your family,
Right.
we're all like, yeah, sure, go do it. Because I thought, wow, I will learn, I will become um, an even more deeper and knowledgeable person for this experience.
Yes.
And so when I was asked about this opportunity to run this global business and move to Germany, and the great part is, got to give a shout out to Mr. Richards,
Yes.
always supportive. I mean, he was immediately like, okay, let's figure out. So when do you have to move? It's just that's also very, very helpful, right?
Yes.
In my mind, I'm thinking, sure. I mean, think of all the things that I'll be able to learn now. Speaking of HR, and you know this,
Yeah.
Laurel, the HR situation in managing employees in Germany is much different than it is in the
Yes.
US. And I've always thought about it. Wow, why don't they just do this? How come we can't just do that? And now I'm sitting in Dusseldorf working in Dormagen, and I'm like, okay, I get it. Well, let's do this. No, Alita, by this regulation and that rule. Man, okay. And so I'm confident after this assignment that I'll be even broader and more experienced and more knowledgeable, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But I think that's the trigger. You
Yeah.
can, I've been on a panel with someone else who was very, very, how to say it? He was an expert
Yeah.
he was an expert technician. He'd always been in engineering in multiple companies, very knowledgeable about his profession. And I
Mm-hmm.
always tease, I'm kind of like the Jill of all trades, right? I've done some of
Yeah.
this, I've done some of that, I've done some of that, did a little bit of this. I tease that the only things I probably haven't done are I've cleaned my office, so I can't say I haven't done janitorial support. I've never
Right.
cleaned the bathroom in the office. There was one time I did serve food in the cafeteria, so I've done that, but I've
Yes.
never counted the money, nor really worked in an operational plant. But everything else I've kind of dabbled in. But it's all about learning something new for me, right?
Mm-hmm.
And taking the chance.
Yeah. I love that. And I was telling somebody the other day, I said, for me, I get bored. I just get bored. If I'm having to do the same thing, that's why, my undergrad is in accounting and that's great. And it was a great foundation for me to be able to do the things I'm doing and to make me the HR person I was because I could speak the language of business. But I was not ever going to be a phenomenal accountant because I got bored doing the same journal entries every day. No, And so kind of like you, I know this isn't it. I don't know what this next thing is, but it's different. I'll learn something, whether it's some skill or just learn how to be somewhere else. it's going to be some new information that's going to help me grow and develop. And then maybe I'll figure out what it is I really want after I do that. Right. So I encourage people to step away from the fear of change and what's the worst that can happen? What's the worst that can happen by you saying yes? You were looking for a job when you found that one. So just go look for another one. Right. So
True.
we just have a tendency to be so afraid because it's the enemy we know. And don't get me wrong. When I'm coaching people, one of the things I say is you do need to pause and don't hurt you because you're mad at them, right? Don't just jump because you're irritated. Try to make a plan. Now, if you're in danger, you need to get out. But if you're not in danger, then you've got time. You've been there that long. You can take a few more weeks, a few more months, a few more years and figure out what your next step is going to be and understand have a choice. You are never stuck. Your life circumstances may say you need to stay a little longer, but you're never stuck. That's what do they call it? That's stinking thinking. Isn't that what I think that was on a TV show? That's stinking thinking. You're never stuck. You just may be having to sit still for a minute. So before we jump in, I know we have a couple of people in the audience and want to see if there are any questions or comments because we could just chat all night. But I like to chat and have a conversation with the panelists for about 20 or 30 minutes and then give the opportunity for people in the audience to ask anything or to jump on stage or whatever. And thank you, Woody, for being there. I think I saw Kathleen and then I saw a little note that she was going to have to go. So if there are any questions from the audience, please jump in for those. When you think about maybe the most powerful thing, as we're waiting for people to jump in and ask a question, when you think about the most powerful thing that you have learned along this journey and how it has impacted your success, what would you say that would be? See, Elita stopped making eye contact. So she's like,
Yeah,
don't ask me first.
You never said you were going to ask hard questions.
Right.
Now I got
so Dina, I guess that means you're on deck.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's 11:30 p.m. So yes, Dina gets to go first.
Right?
You know what? That's tough because there have been a lot of lessons that but I keep going back to maybe two or three things. So hopefully it's okay to share those. I think one is to trust myself. I think that I don't know that we always pause. You know, Elita, you just beautifully summarized a lot of the experiences that you have, which I'd heard bits and bites as we have had conversations over the years, but to hear you stream them together, I was like, oh my gosh, it's a lot. And I don't know that we ever kind of pause to trust what we've kind of gathered in terms of our learning journey. So maybe take a breath and reflect and stand proud in what you've gathered. So that's the one thing which will allow you to trust yourself.
Yeah.
The second is don't leave any money on the table with the exception of being in danger. That's been made very clear. Never leave any money on the table. Ever. And that every experience prepares you for what could be next. You just have to see it. So I don't regret anything. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying we didn't have ups and downs or trials and tribulations and that this corporate posse was here, locked armed. But I also know that I wouldn't be sitting in the role I'm in if I hadn't gone through that and that before that and that before that. So I'm grateful for all of it. Mm-hmm. And sometimes it takes that corporate posse to turn your head left and right and upside down and to remind you of what you may not want to see in yourself, good, bad, or indifferent. So trust those who see you, stand in your truth, don't leave money on the table, and know that you're being prepared for what's next if you choose to embrace it.
Yes, I love that. I love that. Yeah, Lanier was like, girl, you're not leaving any money on the table.
Oh,
no, ma'am. No, ma'am.
She's the musketeer that always makes sure you got your money right.
Yes. She's like, no. We're not doing. Right. So what about you, Elita?
I'm going to steal one of Dina's. Mm-hmm. One of the things that I think you have to remember is that you learn something in every situation.
Yes.
The horrible supervisor that you can't believe you have to work for. you should embrace that and learn what you will not do when you become a supervisor. I think there
Yes.
is a learning opportunity in every experience that you have, right? And while some may be more painful than others, I do agree with Dina that I wouldn't be the manager and the leader that I am
Yeah.
if I hadn't gone through all of the things that I've gone through.
Yeah.
And life is life. Nothing's going to be easy. And it's all about the journey, right? The
Mm-hmm.
second thing, and I have to admit, I've just learned it in the last probably 2.5 years. And this is something that I think all of us need to keep in mind. It's very easy to lose yourself in a corporation, particularly when you're the only, particularly when you
Yes.
don't look like everybody else, right? And about 2.5 years ago, we did a big reorganization
Mhm.
in my group, in my previous group when I was still in the US. And at the time, I had a coach, or I said I had a coach for the process, but he was really instrumental in helping me. And I can remember when we were talking, and he said, "You have to be authentic. You
Yes.
have to be comfortable in yourself." And this is you, Dina, too, because you were the one who was also communicating this to me. See, she loves it when I learn and I listen. I always tell people I'm trainable. I'm trainable.
Yes.
Is
Yes.
to be authentic to yourself and to trust the fact that people will still, hopefully, respect you and follow you if you're the leader,
Mm-hmm.
and work with you and support you when you are yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And I can remember we were in the midst of the reorg. It was very emotional, and
Yeah.
I was trying to be stoic. And I was trying to demonstrate that I've got this, I'm the leader, and couldn't. We were having a session, it was getting real intense. And I felt that some of the people in the group weren't understanding that I was having the same emotional challenge that they were having, if not more, right?
Right.
But I was trying to be stoic about it and just let the guard down. Tears, everything you're not supposed to do. Tears.
Right.
I had to leave a room. And for that second, the trust that was built in that organization and the trust I had with other people, although when I left the room and was walking down the hallway in the hotel, I'm like, okay, I've completely lost it. They're never going to follow me. I mean, how are you going to follow the bawling,
Yes.
manager that can't keep it together when we're all trying to figure out how we're going to get this organization,
Yeah.
redone? And it didn't happen. And I'm not saying that it wouldn't happen or
Right.
this is the perfect scenario for every situation. But it taught me that you just need to be yourself. Sometimes I'm silly. Sometimes I turn to General Patton, right? You've all seen me in my Patton
Yes.
mode. Sometimes I sit and I can remember watching a young colleague giving her first presentation in front of our commercial group, and I got so filled with pride,
Yeah.
crying again, right?
Yep.
And I've learned just to embrace it. It's just, and it took me 30 years, 29 years, to
Mm-hmm.
get to the point to be comfortable enough with myself to say, what the heck, it's just who I am.
Yeah.
Um, and the time in Shanghai, I was so concerned I was going to offend folks as the American coming in. And I appreciated the fact that I should just kind of be myself. And hopefully that's good enough, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
to, I'm sure what you both would say, if it's not good enough, then you're probably in the wrong organization with the wrong individuals.
Yes.
But trust me, please don't take 30 years to get to the point where you can start being yourself. Because when I
Yeah.
joined Bobe in the time of, and all the folks on the call will appreciate, in the times of stockings and suits and
Yes.
everything's formal and it's a chemical company, you fit in, right? You
Yes.
didn't want to stand out. And I'm not saying you need to be crazy, get up on the
Of
get up on
course.
the cubicle and the desks and scream and rant and
Right.
rave. But you want to fit in.
Yeah.
And I've
Yeah.
learned that I can fit in from a strategy perspective, from a passion for the people, for the
Mm-hmm.
passion for the business, but I got to be me, right? I got to be silly, crazy, order giving,
Yes.
crying, laughing, eye rolling.
Yeah.
It's just got to be me. And
Yeah.
that for me was the biggest aha so late in my career, and it's made a world of difference.
Wait,
Yes.
can I say something real quick? Because you made
Yeah.
me think of something. Do you remember when I first? Because it's the same thing you said, Alita, about being yourself. You talked about my necklaces. I wear these giant African necklaces. I love them. When I first showed up for my first corporate picture, the photographer was like, he kind of had his face, and he said, "Are you getting your picture taken?" I said, "Yeah." And he was like, "Oh, okay." And then what was funny, he took a bunch of pictures. He said, "I've been waiting for a splash of color. Thank you for bringing that to the room."
Yes.
I thought it was early on because I was new to the company, and
Yep.
guess what? That was my marker of being myself, and I'm glad. And as you can see, even in this, I'm still wearing the necklaces. So,
Yes.
So I have to share. Sorry. Part of my journey to embrace me, and I would say that Dina has been a mentor for me,
Yeah.
is her sharing the story. And you have to keep in mind we're a German chemical company, Covestro,
Yeah.
headquartered in Leverkusen. Um, we have a very tall head of operations, our manufacturing. So you've got a German head of manufacturing, very stoic, very pragmatic. And Dina tells me I was in Leverkusen and I saw him in the hallway and I went running down the hallway and I gave him this huge hug. And I said, "How are you doing?" And everybody was like, "Woo!" And I'm like, "You did that?" And because Dina is just Dina. And I
Yes.
thought, okay, wait a minute. So this black woman who probably the first or second time she's been in Leverkusen runs up to a board member
Yes.
who I wouldn't even, if you paid me $1 million, figure out how I would be able to give him a hug, hugs him in front of everybody. Everybody knows like, whoo. And I'm like, if she can do that, man, I could be a little more authentic. So
Yes.
so it's just also having, back to your corporate posse, right? It's also having those folks that you can look to emulate and to appreciate and respect. I will never forget that story. Every time I get a
Yeah.
little scared, I'm like, yeah, I'll just be like Dina, hugging
Yeah.
Klaus in the hallway.
Yes. What would Dina
Because
do?
I can
Yeah.
imagine the faces, and Laurel, I can
Yes.
imagine the faces of,
Yes. It was, and the thing that's so powerful about that, guys, that you're listening and listening live or listening to the replay is about being who you are and being authentic and being yourself, is that probably one of the only people, and I'm going to venture to say one of the only people, there were people who knew of people in this organization. So global company, right? All over Europe, German headquarters, we get operations in the US and China and Mexico, just all over. And so people knew the board members' names. They knew who they were when they saw them. They know people in different places. But everybody knew Dina.
everybody, everybody
Everybody. And it
in
wasn't just,
Taiwan, in
yes,
Japan, in Mexico,
everyone.
in Shanghai, in Guangzhou, in
Yes,
Leverkusen, in Dormagen. Everybody knew
everybody.
Dina.
Everybody knows
Everybody
Dina.
knew Dina.
And it was, I know, and she acts like she's embarrassed. But here's the thing, what's beautiful about that
oh,
is that each of those people who know Dina know the same Dina.
mm,
And the thing about the company politics, as you've heard, Alita talk about, of trusting yourself and being who you are and being passionate, as heard Dina talk about, is there's what we're not saying you don't have a level of savvy around what is appropriate. That's different. This is not an appropriateness discussion,
right.
right? It is like, it's not your backyard barbecue when you go to a company picnic. It's just not, right? So this is not an appropriateness discussion. What this is about is being so clear and comfortable about who you are, getting really, really deep into that, that you have an ability to navigate your environment and not have to do so much code switching that Black women in particular, and most people who are in any kind of other category, end up having to be. Because again, that's not appropriateness. That's not just making sure you're kind of morphing to the culture. When we talk code switching, we are truly meaning you are changing who you are in order to feel safe. And when you get comfortable in knowing I am experienced. I have great exposure to stuff. I am talented. I can trust myself. I have all of these other things that I have learned. When you can sit in that space and show up, you can walk up to a board member and give them a hug because you know who you are. You know who you are, right? You know what your intent is, you know what you're doing, and you know why you're doing it. And so, those of you who will be listening to this, who are on the call now and who will be listening to this replay, I highly encourage you to also go listen to the podcast, the pre-recorded, and hear some more tidbits from these ladies, and you'll get to hear Lanier as well. But I also encourage you to spend the time really getting to know who you are and how you want to show up. And also give yourself some grace that it can change over time as you get more experience, as you get more exposure, as things begin to change. It is going to look different as you move through your career. But one of the most important things you can do, whether you work for yourself or you work for somebody else, whether it is nonprofit or it's for profit, whether it's chemicals, healthcare, sports, the best thing you can do is know you. Know you. Because then when you're making decisions, you're making decisions from a point of power.
If you mind, if I could jump.
Yes,
I'm sorry,
please, both of you. Yeah, jump in.
I was going to say, but I don't want to forget one thing.
Yes.
Yes, you need to know you, but if you are a leader or a supervisor,
Yes.
the thing you have to remember is to allow folks to also be able to come to work and participate on the team as their true self.
Yes.
Just to share an example, there was a gentleman that I worked with, and it really never came up in the conversation, right? That, everyone talked about their husbands or their wives from a heterosexual perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And I can remember in one of the conversations that we had, he finally kind of let it slip just a little bit that he had a partner.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, And then I finally kind of felt bad because I never really felt that he felt comfortable enough to share that in his experience. And when he goes home, how his family is. And this was years ago. This was probably about 20 years ago, right?
Yeah.
And ever since then, I thought, how would I feel if I never felt comfortable talking about Frank?
Yeah.
How? Because you all know I'm always talking about Mr. Richards.
Right.
If I couldn't share some of the stuff that happened in the evening. And so for me is please, as we stress the importance of authenticity, for me, the critical thing that I've learned is that as a leader, it's even more important for me to appreciate when people and make sure that people know, no, you come with your true self.
Yeah.
Because it takes too much energy for you to think you're going to do what you think you need to do. Just be yourself and just get stuff done. And I'm sorry, Dina, I cut you
I
off.
love it.
Your point's spot on. And I was going to say something. It's more because you talked earlier, Laurel, about sort of knowing the space and everything.
Yes.
For me, it's not just what Elita said, but it's also you definitely need to know yourself, but you also need to know where you want to be. And that comes from knowing yourself. So part of what your move or your decision-making sort of tree or chain is, where would you like to work?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure a bank is not going to work out for me. Banks might, like maybe a smaller community bank, but some of that bank structure is not aligned. So
Yes.
I knew that enough about myself and my own authenticity to try and match.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if chemicals is that much different or construction, but there were pieces of that were more aligned. So I always say you have to know how you see yourself,
Yes.
how you see other people, and how other people see you.
Yes.
So, and that thread is authentic. And to Alita's point, and as a leader, you set the tone so other people can do the exact same thing.
Agreed. Man, you guys are fabulous. Y'all see why they're part of my corporate posse? See, this is why. Because they're
I was
amazing.
about to say the same thing. That's why y'all part of my corporate posse.
Amazing. Because that title that I used, I never would have made it without you, is true. Because those times when you just needed to vent, or those times when you're like, I can't do this anymore, or I'm out, and they're like, wait, call me, right? Call me before you do that. Call me. That's so important, right? Or when you truly are not necessarily in a dangerous situation, but when you are in a precarious situation, and you just don't know what to do, having that corporate posse also becomes your not only support system, but they become your sponsors. They become your mentors. They become your advocates. They become the people that go into the rooms and have some conversations that you are just not equipped in the moment to have, either because of exposure or because of just the circumstances at the time. So know who you are. Get really comfortable with who you are. Understand how you want to show up, right? How you want to lead, because leadership is not about you, it's about the people you're leading. And then be sure that you take the time to take care of you, because you only get this one go around. All of us only get this one go around. And it may not fit where you are, but that doesn't mean nothing's going to fit. It just means that may not be the right thing at the time, right? Reason, season, lifetime. Make sure you are giving yourself some grace and showing yourself some compassion so that you can show up the way you want to and continue to learn, continue to be curious.
Yep.
Ladies, I don't see anything any questions in the audience. Woody, thank you again. I know I saw a couple people, I saw some notes. So thank you guys for tuning in. Woody, thank you for being here again. I really appreciate that. Jenny, you're amazing. Any commentary or anything, Jenny, before we close it out?
I just wanted to say thank you so much to all of you for sharing so much wisdom with us. I feel like this was a masterclass.
Yeah.
So thank you for just being so generous with your time and sharing your knowledge. And I would just encourage everyone to also listen to the podcast with these amazing women. There are some similar topics, but there's also a lot more. And it has really been my pleasure to learn from you this week. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Jenny. You're awesome. My awesome producer extraordinaire on Fireside. Definitely continue to tune in. You may see a little branding change going forward. Elita, thank you for joining us from Germany, honey, because I know it's about the end of the day. So way end of the day. So thank you for doing that. Dina, I know you got so much craziness going on. Thank you for being here. We are wishing Lanier a safe trip over to Saudi Arabia. She told me to pass it on to everybody that she wishes she could be here, that they changed some schedules up on her. So she is on a plane as we speak. So thank you all, as always, for being here, for being a part of the show, for choosing to listen, because we all have a choice in what we're going to spend our time doing. And so I certainly appreciate it. We'll be back again next week. Next week is a mashup. So anyone who can join, I'm asking them to join. We'll have lots of questions. Everything is open. It's going to be just a lively conversation next week. It'll be back to 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. So Lita, you can come back too if you can't sleep. Come back and join us. Jump on the stage, because we would love to have you. Again, thank you everyone so much for being here. Gabrielle, we're just now ending the show. Thank you so much for tuning in. The replay will be up soon. I appreciate it, everyone. Look for the replay. Go download the podcast.